What it do, American government students? As promised, I'm going to give you a review video for our Unit 1 assessment, the why and the how, which is basically origins and structures of American government that we've been working on so far the last couple of months. So, really quickly, I think it's really important that if you haven't already, that you get all your materials together. The unit cover sheet is meant to be an overview of the learning objectives and kind of demonstrate to you or indicate what level of depth you should know each one of those in. And then you've got all your note sheets and activities. You can use a copy of the Constitution. I will have a few spare paper copies, so bring yours. Once I'm out, I'm out. All slideshows are in the general channel and class materials. I'm not going to spend a ton of time going over the vocab terms. I like to use them in the context in which they're supposed to be used. But if you need some of these defined, this would be something to ask me before the test if there's something you can't figure out. Okay. Most effective way to study is to test yourself. So I try to make these various review activities things that you have to test your knowledge and actually do things in the way that you will be asked. So, I already made a review video for topic 1, which are the different structures of governments, how our government's organized. We already had a quiz on that. So if you felt good about your score, you got that 3.0 on the quiz, and you're good, don't worry about it. If you want to try to get a 4.0, there's a little bit more difficult question, and that is going to be more related to the idea of this right here, which is what are some actual advantages, benefits, and drawbacks of these different systems. So thinking about advantages and disadvantages as opposed to just identifying them. If you do the 3.0 and you want to do the retake, it's going to be just like the one you had on the quiz, where you're going to get a basic outline of a country, and you have to tell me what type of government it has based on its participation of citizens, its distribution of power between the national and regional or state governments, and the relationship between the legislative and the executive. Your project is if you did a nice job on that, which most of you did, that's a really good review for this entire unit. You pretty much applied every single concept to that country. So keep that fresh in your mind and you'll have a good system to work through. The only issue is if you did something different than the American Constitution, which I encourage you to do, but you got to make sure you don't forget that it's different than the American Constitution. So if you're asked a question about the American Constitution, don't tell me something that's like your government. Tell me something about your Constitution. Okay. Anyhow, I'm going to go through topics 2. If you want a review of these things again, I would strongly encourage you to look at the other video that's in my government playlist, because that is for the topic 1 quiz, and that'll go over that. But I'm at a 15-minute time cap on my screen recording. I don't want to make 2 videos if I can help it. So that's that. All right. The first thing we did in government for topic 2, if you go on topic 2, not the first thing actually, kind of the second thing, but this objective is just a knowledge objective. It's outline or describe the major historical milestones leading to the establishment of the government. Here they are. Do you know the major things that led to the American Revolution? It's not a rehash of your history class. You just need to know some basic things that the colonists were upset about. All of that you can gain from either the American Revolution bingo game we played, which was just an in-class activity, or we literally read the Declaration of Independence and we filled it out and we did graphic organizer and chunked it. That's a good thing to do. You got to understand what the Articles of Confederation was and how it set up the government and what some issues were. And then you should know a little bit about the Constitutional Convention and how the Constitution is structured. So that's going to be the notes we took. Also the Constitutional Scavenger Hunt, Principles Constitution notes. So anything like that. Okay. This is a little bit different. This is a little more intense. This is a reasoning and skills objective. So here I want to actually know how we can see Enlightenment philosophies or ideals in the Declaration of Independence, and possibly later the Constitution. Here are the ideas of the the Enlightenment ideas in the Declaration of Independence. So we did a graphic organizer on that. Here are the main things that we did related to that. So one, I put this on Teams. There is a key to this Declaration of Independence. If I can find it, there it is right here. Looks like this. Basically went through and we identified different parts of the Declaration of Independence that related to different parts of the Enlightenment and the Enlightenment ideas, and we filled it out. So go check that out if you haven't. You should have your own, but that's a good thing to check out. We also did the Enlightenment thinkers. So there were 4. There were Hobbes, Locke, Montesquieu and Rousseau. So they were all interested in different things. Okay. Representative government for Rousseau, separation of powers for Montesquieu. We had natural rights, social contract, state of nature for John Locke, and then social contract and state of nature for Hobbes as well. So looking over that and then thinking about how do we see those in the Declaration of Independence. Let's take a look at the questions, though, make sure that I'm answering those. So 3 causes, those could be anything related to, I don't know, you could talk about the common thing, taxation without representation. You could talk about, encroachment on colonial autonomy or sovereignty. Talk about popular sovereignty, the right of the people to rule in the American government. That was a big thing for the colonists as well. You have issues of the security and the military. So the British military encroaching on the rights. You could talk about property rights. That was a big issue with the colonists. So any of those would be good. I gave you 4. There's the bingo game, knowledge of history. You can look at the grievances of the Declaration of Independence. Again, if you look at, did I leave it open? No, I didn't. Declaration of Independence. Let's see if I kept it in here. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we went through all these grievances and we talked about how they can't pass laws, lawmaking representation. We connected it. If you did this activity with us, we broke it up in class. If you did it in class, you're in good shape, okay? You got everything you need right here. That's what this activity is for. This and the Enlightenment philosophers. Uh-oh. Things are freezing. That's not what I need. Okay, good. 3 ways that we see Enlightenment principles in the Declaration of Independence. Again, they're all right here. Like, take a look at those. We've got the social contract where they talk about how the military is not upholding its rights of the colonists with no choice from the colonists. We've got Hobbes and Locke, the social contract. Again, soldiers are almost creating a state of nature since they have no accountability. Talked about Locke's natural rights here. Montesquieu, separation of powers. All of them, it's chock full of things. They basically plagiarize this thing from the Enlightenment philosophers. So knowing the Enlightenment philosophers, connecting it to the Declaration of Independence, it's going to be a huge thing. I guarantee you that you're going to see that as a 3.0 or 4.0 question. So make sure you understand the connection between these. They're all right here. Lessons the U.S. learned from issues of the Articles of Confederation. So you got to know about A, the Articles of Confederation, what it is, B, the issues they had, and C, how they address those in the Constitution. This is a big part. This is why it's a knowledge and reasoning question. I think if we go back to our 1.0 packet here, all right, we need to know the underlying organization of the federal government, which is why we did the constitutional scavenger hunt. But we got to know about how these principles apply, and we got to know how they kind of learn their lessons from the Articles of Confederation. So how do we see those things play a role? All right. So we played a game in class, and that was supposed to give you some experiential ideas about how the Articles of Confederation had issues. But if you look at 1.3a is the Articles of Confederation, and then you kept track of your game. But if you look at some of the issues here that we noticed, the states had a lot of autonomy. It was a confederation. It was not federalist. It was not unitary. It was almost the opposite. It was confederate. The United States was only a firm league of friendship. Again, firmness, the manly firmness, the firm league of friendship showing up there. So that was an issue where, the federal government didn't have a lot of power. They couldn't tax. They couldn't raise an army without the states being okay with it. They couldn't enforce laws directly. There was no national executive power specifically. You might argue that a lot of the larger states felt that 1 vote per state was not enough, that there should have been proportional representation in accounting for the needs of the larger states. Again, states can't conduct foreign relations or declare war, but the national government can't raise an army. So there's this weird relationship there. Can't tax. Expenditures of the United States had to be paid by funds raised by the state legislatures. Very, very limited rights of the central government. If it wasn't here, then basically they didn't have those powers. Changing the Articles of Confederation was very, very difficult. You had to have all the states ratify any changes. So that caused problems. So in our game, we had issues with paying back debts. We didn't have such an issue with determining whether or not slavery would be allowed in the Northwest territories. So adding into, and that is something the Articles of Confederation did a good job with. They outlawed slavery in the Northwest Territories, and everybody was pretty much okay with it, as far as I know. Fighting off encroachments from inside the country and also outside the country. And then the one that really destroyed the Articles of Confederation was Shays' Rebellion, where he had an outright rebellion within the United States against the government. So that's kind of the issues that we saw. Now let's get back into what do we see from the Constitution itself. So I'm going to go through this one. All of this you can find in the notes about the Principles of the Constitution and the Constitution. But issues Confederation, I just gave you a bunch of those. Let's talk about how they fix those. So I'll kind of go through those really quick. So first off, obviously in Article 1 directly gives Congress what they call the power of the purse. So spending and taxation. Congress gets to decide how to spend the money and can directly tax the people. Well, it's a little bit complicated because there's some amendments that happen that change the types of taxes, but in general, they can raise money and tax and print money. You also have a national executive in the executive branch. You have the president. Okay, you have bicameral legislature as opposed to unicameral. So you have Congress is the House and the Senate, and one of those, because of the Great Compromise, is proportional. That's the House. That's based off population, and then the Senate is based off of two equal representation, so 2 per state. You had the power to raise an army and conduct military. So actually, Congress raises the army, determines how the army is going to be raised, and then, or the military in this case, and the president is the commander in chief. So you have that separation of powers. Some other things, easier process for amendments. So you have 2 different ways it can be amended, and then so you can have the Congress determine an amendment, or you could have states decide that there needs to be a constitutional convention. So even the states can decide that the Constitution needs to be amended, and then you have what's called state conventions, and then they pass an amendment, and then any amendment has to then go to ratification of just 3/4 of the states, not all the states. So easier process for amendments. You had a separate legislative, executive, and judicial power. So a lot of the powers was just in the Confederation Congress. The judicial power was just in the Confederation Congress. Now you have separate Congress, presidency, and court system. Compromises, you need to know these. There's a nice slideshow about all of these. It's called the Constitutional Convention. It goes through not only the background and the compromises that they go through related to these different issues, but it also talks about some of the principles of the Constitution as well. So check that out in Teams. I made a Teams version. I'm going to check my time really quick. Oh no, I got 2 minutes to do this. Okay, I got to hurry up. I have to go fast. All right, so representation, proportional or equal. Actually, this is what I'll do. I'm going to stop this one. I'm going to make a second video. So we'll stop and make a second video.